Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well and thank you for being here. This is another timeless reading that's for somebody out there. My intention is that it will find the people it's meant for and at the right time. It's definitely not intended to be for everyone, so if the storyline that emerges is not resonating with you, it's probably not for you. You can still watch the whole reading because it's always an intention of mine that anyone who is drawn to one of my readings will gain something from it. Whether that's an insight, a bit of wisdom, or just the opportunity to see something from a different perspective. So if you happen to be here, I think you're meant to be here. Now, in terms of what's going on here in my life, I live in Brisbane, Australia, and Cyclone Alfred will be dropping in on us soon. It's my first experience of a cyclone, so we'll see what happens. I think we're prepared, but I don't think you can really prepare for a natural disaster, so we'll see what happens. We've been warned we might be out of power for a few days, so if you don't see a lunar reading for the Virgo lunar eclipse, that'll be why. But what can I say? It's an eclipse, so it's going to be activating. It's also involving the South Node, so maybe it's going to bring up something about your old life that needs to be released. Hopefully I'll get that reading out. We'll see. But anyway, I thought I would do this video because it is ready to go, and I guess it fills some of the time and stops me getting too anxious about what's coming. So I'll try and get this one uploaded before things start going nuts around here. I would truly appreciate it if you are able to send us some positive vibes. That would be so great. If you do know Australia, then this is going to be affecting Brisbane, the Gold Coast and the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, and it's also going to be affecting the northern part of New South Wales. Well, anyway, I guess we'll just do our love pause now as we usually do, and then we'll get started with the reading. So the love pause is where we pause the video and we send some love out into the universe. You can also do a little Ho'oponopono prayer instead if you prefer, and that involves saying the 4 sentences: thank you, I love you, I'm sorry, and please forgive me. So thank you to everyone who does do this. The time to pause the video is now, and I'll start my reading on the next slide. All right, this is our spread for today's reading. If you're interested in the decks that I've used, they'll be listed in the description box. So this is an interesting one. And I say that because I normally just start channeling the spread because I know that's how I'm going to get the story out. But this time, for some reason, I started off looking at the cards. My mind was trying to figure out what was going on. I don't know why, but I just felt like something was off here. And then I was distracted by this ego sublimation card, and that got me wondering how that relates to the rest of the spread. So it's a little bit stupid to let my mind get all tied up in knots about it when all I have to do is start channeling and I'll get my story. But for some reason my mind is a bit starting off, this reading is a little bit unsettled about the spread. And I'm reminded of when I was attending a music concert that my children were involved in, and one of the pieces was introduced with some information on dissonance and discordance of musical notes and how those could be used intentionally to create a musical effect that we would find jarring or unsettling. And that is actually the case in some compositions that do cause us to feel anxious or uncertain. I'm not musical, so I can't be sure, but I suspect that some of those musical themes that we find haunting or disturbing or frightening are using those kinds of techniques. I'm now feeling like I want to listen to the Jaws theme to see what was going on with the notes in that composition, because that was scary music, wasn't it? I've also wondered about the theme song from the Wonder Woman movie, because that has something kind of haunting or disturbing going on there as well. Maybe the song The Phantom of the Opera as well. Like, you know how those songs just have something. Yeah. So it could well be these musical techniques where they intentionally put notes together that shouldn't really go together. Well, anyway, that's me going off on a tangent, but that does usually end up relating to the reading in some way. But yeah, there's something about this spread that is perhaps a little bit dissonant or discordant or something. And actually, I think I might have just seen something that I didn't notice before. So maybe that's it. But I'll save it for later when I'm talking about these cards, because I'm sure as I channel it, it's going to come through anyway. All right, I'm tempted to start with that ego sublimation card, because there is an interesting thing that comes up with that. So my educational background was all STEM. So sublimation to me is about something solid becoming a gas without going through the intermediate liquid phase. So I would initially think ego sublimation is about someone's ego that was once solidly established but is now kind of vaporizing away. And certainly the image on this card would fit with that. But for some reason I felt guided to actually go and look this term up. So I was like, ego sublimation is a funny thing to say, isn't it? So I went and looked it up, and it turns out that this is an actual phrase in psychology. So that came as a surprise to me, because it's not a term I'd ever heard before. The good news is it's actually a fairly simple concept to understand. So what ego sublimation is it's a technique our ego uses to manage urges and impulses that aren't societally acceptable. For example, angry impulses or lustful impulses. And what it is it's just that we learn to, or we choose to respond. We start choosing to respond to a particular impulse by pursuing a different action, one that is societally acceptable or tolerated. And in some cases, it can even be seen as a positive thing for someone to do. And as I was trying to get to before, this is something we can learn, and it can actually lead to some of our habits that we have. And one of the typical examples was if someone tends to get really, really angry. And obviously, as a child, you may get violent with people, or you might smash things up. But what you might learn, what your ego might learn, is that you can expend that energy through exercise, and you can work all that emotion out of your system that way. And as I was saying that, I just got the mental image of Lord Shiva dancing in anger. So he's the Lord of dance in Hinduism, and obviously he's famous for dance generally. But there was one he did that was like the dance of destruction. It was called the Rudra Tandava. And maybe that's going to be relevant in some way later. But anyway, so exercise to release anger would be seen as a positive example of ego sublimation, because some of these people are going to end up, exercising and being super fit, being super healthy, and that's a much better effect than if they went around smashing things and, hurting people. So that's good. Other examples of ego sublimation would be if someone's experiencing grief or emotional pain, and they choose to do something with that. They might write poetry or renovate their home or volunteer their time to help other people. And again, we would see that as a more positive thing for that person to do than to just walk around looking ravaged and grief-stricken for weeks and months. So those are examples of ego sublimation. It certainly was an interesting bit of research to do as a detour. But the fact that I was guided to look it up and that it actually did have another meaning is suggesting to me that perhaps both meanings will be relevant to this reading. Okay, and my mind seems to have settled now. So obviously the thing that I spotted before must be the thing that isn't making sense. But anyway, let's go there. So I'm going to start the channeling as I normally do with the card at the bottom of the deck. So we have the Five of Swords card, which is not a nice card. So it can be about cruelty, bullying, exploitation, narcissistic abuse, that kind of stuff. So the common theme is that it's about someone who only cares about themselves, and they don't care what happens to other people as long as they get what they want. And actually, this is reminding me of the wolves in the last reading. I don't know if this is necessarily going to relate to that reading, but we do sometimes seem to get a recurring theme for a few readings in a row. And I have noticed we've had quite a few readings lately about encounters with bad people, and it seems to be about past encounters with bad people. So I don't know, I'm wondering if we're maybe going through some kind of collective purging of bad past experiences. I guess if that's happening, it's a good thing. If we're getting it out of our systems, that's a good thing. Okay, well, back to this Five of Swords card. So the person in the foreground is looking distressed, but then, and this is what I spotted, the mystery thing that I spotted, is that in the background of this card, there's someone celebrating with their arms out. And that's the thing I think that I needed to spot um, because the card that we've got, the next card over, is the card in the past position of the spread, also has someone celebrating with their arms out. It's a woman. And so I think when I first looked at the spread, just surface level looked at it, I was connecting that woman with the Bridget card on the far right of the top. And it's because there's a fire in both cards. And so I thought those cards were related. And then I guess my brain must have seen this little connection with these people celebrating. So there's two different connections that have come up here that don't really align with each other. So that's perhaps what the dissonance or discordance is related to. See, I told you it would come up, that there was something like that. But anyway, I'll just channel the tarot cards first. I'll leave Bridget out of it just for now, and we'll just work with these two cards. So in that bottom of the deck card, we have someone celebrating a victory or success that has come at someone else's expense. And I guess the victim here is you, and the person that came out on top is the person on the Six of Wands card. So they're standing in the spotlight, and there's actually also a suggestion of a spotlight in that Five of Swords card as well. So whoever this person was that, did you wrong, they must have gone on to become a star. So it looks like they're well known, and there's a sense in this card that they've got this big fan base. So they've done very well for themselves at whatever they do. But in some ways, it looks like they accomplished that by doing something harmful to you. And that's a bit sad. So, yeah. But I'm going to go back to that Five of Swords card, because there's a lot of depth being shown in this artwork, in this image. So if you're the character in the foreground, that other character is this tiny little figure that's a long way back in the background. And that's giving me the feeling that their poor treatment of you actually happened in the distant past. So it's not a recent thing. Quite a bit of time has passed. But looking at the way you look in this card, that experience has remained with you. It's caused you to feel a lot of distress for a really long time. In this image, there's a crow that's sitting on your shoulder making a lot of noise, and that's giving me the feeling that for a long time you've had persistent thoughts, or you did have persistent thoughts about this person and what they did. And I guess on top of everything else, it was probably quite triggering for you to see them doing so well after what they did to you. So you might have carried a lot of anger and a lot of bitterness around with you for a really long time. Now, in terms of what was done to you, it could be a bit like that last reading where someone stole your work or your ideas and became successful as a result. But I'm wondering here if it might be more like someone who used you to get ahead with their career and then they left you. So you may have felt it was a genuine relationship, but they treated you like you were just a rung on the ladder that they were climbing. And the way they treated you has obviously left you a bit messed up as a result. Now I'm breathing a sigh of relief with the card in the present position because it's beautiful. We have the King of Cups in the present position. So you've done really well. I'm actually feeling a little bit proud of you. I'm a little bit teary-eyed as I'm writing this. But the King of Cups is so emotionally mature and balanced. And it's also a card I associate with someone who's kind and compassionate and sensitive. This is water sign energy, but I tend to personally see it as a Scorpio card. And look at how much you've changed from that bottom of the deck card. So you're a bit older, and that fits with the fact that a lot of time has passed. But you look so peaceful here. You're meditating, and I think that looks like a Tibetan sound bowl in front of you. So you've obviously become quite spiritual. Your crown chakra there is lit up, and your heart chakra is activated as well. The way you're dressed is a lot more relaxed than how you used to dress. You're looking happy and at peace. And I just got Lord Shiva again because he's often shown in a meditation pose. So that's interesting. And also he's obviously, unlike a lot of the other Hindu gods, he's not ever dressed in lots of finery. He's sort of dressed in an animal skin, and he lives in a very kind of woody area. Like he doesn't dress up like a god with a big gold crown and all sorts of stuff. So Shiva looks a lot simpler. So and you've got the simple look happening here as well. So Shiva's come up twice, so that's really interesting. But anyway, let's look at this. I'm just getting drawn back to the ego sublimation stuff that I was talking about earlier because of this transformation that you've had. I think this has happened to you in your life. So I think in the past you were like Shiva dancing the Rudra Tandava, which, as I said, is the dance of destruction, and it was in response to anger for him. So maybe your actions at an earlier point were quite damaging and destructive, and that was the only outlet you felt you had for the feelings that you were having. And then I guess at some point you found some other ways to release your pain and your anger, and these were more positive ways. So maybe you stumbled across meditation and you discovered that you could find peace in meditation, and then that sort of led you down the spiritual path, something like that. With that image of Shiva in meditation coming to me, I think you've made a lot of spiritual progress, and that's really beautiful. I'm also now thinking of the fact that Scorpio is the sign that we relate to death, transformation, and rebirth. And in fact, the ego sublimation card is a number 58, and that adds to 13, which is actually the death card again. So definitely getting a sense here that you've changed a lot. You're a very different person now, and it's really lovely to see. I'm now drawn to the second oracle card, the one that reads, "Be open to love." And it's because it's reminding me of Shiva again. This storyline is actually reminding me of Shiva's storyline. So I might just touch on that before we keep going. So in Shiva's story, he wasn't betrayed by his first wife, Sati. The devastating thing that happened to him was her death, because she took her own life. She jumped into a fire, basically, and it was because her father dishonored her husband. So she loved Shiva very much, and her father just insulted Shiva in a really bad way, and she just couldn't live with herself for, allowing her father to disrespect him in that way, I suppose, or for the fact that her father did that. So she jumped into this fire. She took her own life, and Shiva's first response was rage, and he danced this Rudra Tandava, and he, as he was dancing it, this is the dance of destruction, the other gods were starting to fear that he was going to destroy the whole universe, kind of thing. So yeah, anyway, he eventually did stop dancing, but he did exact his vengeance for her death. So that happened, and then later he entered this grieving state, and as part of his grief, he started meditating. He withdrew from the world and he lived an ascetic life, which means he gave up all worldly pleasures. He was just focused on achieving spiritual liberation. So that's what he was doing, and that's why that meditation pose of Shiva is so famous in the artwork. Now he remained in this meditative existence until Parvati appears in the story, and obviously Shiva ultimately marries her. And sorry for the spoiler, but Parvati is actually Sati reincarnated, so they are actually the same goddess. So it's not the same storyline, but I feel like there's some similarities in terms of Shiva's story, because we have that thing where the first response was anger, rage, and then it was to withdraw into spirituality. So maybe there was a similar decision here where you gave up worldly pleasures to pursue spiritual liberation. And I guess in your case that would be like a decision to live a solitary life where you don't really do much in terms of socializing or going out and doing fun things. You just become a more spiritual person who does things on your own, I guess. But getting back to this oracle card, it does say be open to love. And I feel like that's saying you're not meant to stay the way that you are. And Shiva wasn't meant to be forever in solitude either. He became part of a loving partnership again. And that story coming through so strongly in this reading is definitely telling me that love is possible for you as well if you get yourself out of this mindset that you're better off on your own. And if you're the King of Cups, you have a big, beautiful heart and a lot of love to give. And I suspect that most people would find you quite easy to love. So it's a shame you had that bad past experience, but it really was a long time ago. And it isn't fair to assume that all people are bad just because one person treated you badly. You're also a very different person now. So I suspect the type of person that you'd find attractive now would be different. And honestly, the type of person who'd be attracted to who you are now is also going to be very different to the people that might have pursued you in the past. The cage in this oracle card image is a mindset that you can free yourself from. There are good people out there, and you could certainly find yourself in a very happy relationship if you were to find the right person. I feel like this card is just saying don't stay closed off to the possibility of finding love again. And to be honest, I just think you're so different now that really it's not going to be the same kind of person that you end up with in the future. The Bridget card is titled Inner Strength. I'm still thinking about the fire in this card and the fire in that Six of Wands card. I do still feel like there's some kind of connection. I guess in that Six of Wands card, the woman has turned her back to the fire and her attention is just on what's in front of her. Like the fire doesn't matter. And I just got love doesn't matter. And maybe it was your love, like maybe that flame is representing your love and she turned her back on it. But Bridget here is holding the fire in front of her heart as she looks at you. So this seems like it's a new love, someone who's offering you their love, and it's a strong flame, just like the love that came from your heart. Oh, we've got twin flames, two flames. So this might be a twin flame storyline. So your flame here and their flame are a match because you're obviously meant to be together. You both love hard. That's what these fires are about. And I guess thinking of the Shiva story, Shiva and Shakti are the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and they were always meant to be together as well. So yeah, definitely don't give up on love. There is big love coming your way and you will recognize it. I'm getting that you'll see it in her eyes. I'm assuming you're a man and she's a woman, but of course it could be the other way around, because divine masculine and divine feminine can be in either gender. But I'm getting that, I'll just say she and her because of the images here, but I'm getting that you'll see it in her eyes because Bridget's eyes are looking at us. So if this was you, she's looking into your eyes and you'll be seeing the love in her eyes. And I don't know, this could be someone called Bridget or Bridget, and it could be someone who looks like this as well. I don't know why I'm getting that, but it's possible. But what I am getting is that you'll see their loving heart and you'll see the truth in their eyes. You'll feel it. So, you'll know that they're sincere in what they're telling you, what they're expressing to you. The card is titled Inner Strength, so you're going to see that they are a strong character as well. Wow. So the message on the Bridget card is move back to wholeness. Recognize that you have the power. That's making me think of inner and outer union with respect to twin flames. Your wholeness relates to inner union between your masculine and feminine energies, and inner union is meant to lead to outer union manifesting. I feel like this could all be to do with all the healing work that you have done. It has moved you back to wholeness. And when you think about it, the King of Cups is a masculine energy in the feminine element that we associate with sensitivity and compassion and intuition. So there's inherently a masculine feminine balance in that archetype. So so you've definitely gotten to that point of wholeness, I believe. Now, the card in the future position, last one to discuss, is the Three of Pentacles, and it's a card of teamwork and collaboration. It's about finding people that you can co-create the future with. So these are people who are like you. They share your vision of the future. So by opening to love, you will find these people, this soul tribe. And I'm definitely feeling like the one of these connections is a significant other. And it's because I'm seeing the smile that this man is giving the woman who is standing in front of him. But there are going to be other people too if this is the Three of Pentacles. So you're going to have a significant other plus some good friends and close connections. This card has a really beautiful energy. And if the man in the picture is you, you're looking happy and actually more youthful, aren't you? So this is looking like the best you've looked in this whole reading. So well done. Things are going to be good in the future. Now, I usually say tarot cards are genderless, and that's true. But I have to admit this whole reading has felt like I'm reading for a man. So I guess it's regardless, it's divine masculine that I'm reading for. So even if you're a woman, you'll find that if the story's resonating, it's still for you. But again, we got Shiva, which makes me think masculine man as well. So, we'll see. There's just one more thing I need to say, and I wasn't seeing this when I was first channeling the cards, but this could be someone coming back because of that twin flame storyline. And I'm also thinking of how Parvati was the reincarnation of Sati, and how when you look at the spread, the women in the past and future, so in the Six of Wands and the Three of Pentacles cards, both of them, they're turned away from us. We can't see their faces. So that's lending a bit of mystery to this whole thing. But then we see Bridget's face so clearly. So, like I said, I didn't initially think that, but with the twin flame storyline and then the Sati Parvati thing, maybe there's a she came back kind of vibe going on here. Yeah, so it's possible. I guess even if people have hurt us badly in the past, they can have their own transformational journey as well. So looking at that Six of Wands card, there's that leafy wreath underneath that flame. And she's turned her back on that in that card. But then when you look at Bridget, there's that Celtic pattern around Bridget's head, which would represent enlightenment. So again, that was something that first woman had her back to, and Bridget now has it surrounding her crown chakra, indicating she is enlightened. So maybe this is a twin flame who wasn't awakened back then, but they are now. We did have ego sublimation, so maybe their story was that they grew up believing that the only way for them to feel good was through achieving success and receiving external validation, and so nothing else mattered to them. And so that would mean their journey has been finding out that there are better ways to feel good about yourself. And obviously the best way would be to find peace and happiness by learning to love and accept yourself unconditionally. Because if you have unconditional self-love, there's no need to seek external approval or validation, because you know that you are enough as you are. And it isn't necessary that you achieve anything at all. So if that's the storyline for this other person, that would be a big journey of evolution for them as well. So if this is a twin flame storyline, then we might well be talking about that person from the past who is maybe the twin flame runner in this storyline. But I guess that person may be coming back. And I'm now drawn to the mirror, the fact that it's a mirror in the ego sublimation card. And I know people talk of mirroring and twin flame connections as well. So if this is the storyline, then they left you because they didn't believe that love mattered. And then obviously when you did your little spiritual withdrawal, you became someone who decided that love didn't matter. And then they come back after realizing that love really does matter, which puts them in the energy that you were in at the start, and with them coming back and offering their heart to you, that's putting them in the energy that you were in at the start. So yeah, it's very interesting. So yeah, I did get a strong feeling about the eyes with Bridget, though. So even if this is someone coming back, you will know from their eyes that they're not the same person anymore. And as I said, she's got evidence of enlightenment. She's holding this flame in front of her heart. So you'll see that this person's heart chakra is now open where it wasn't before. And you will know that it wasn't before because you haven't seen them like this before. You will feel the difference when this person comes back. So if this is the storyline, this person has changed just as much as you have in the years since you last met them. And I guess we're heading into Mercury retrograde soon. Venus is already in retrograde. We have eclipses coming up, outer planets changing signs. There's all kinds of stuff going on. So really anything's possible, I think. But the other thing that's coming to me with the Shiva Shakti thing was that the Pisces new moon that we just had was also Mahashivaratri, which is when the Hindus celebrate the union of Shiva and Parvati. So that's very, very, very interesting. And I think I'll leave it there, something to think about. All right, last slide. That was an interesting reading, a bit unexpected. But I guess I started off the reading having no idea what that spread was trying to say. So I guess it was always going to be unexpected. But anyway, so the decks, as I always say, are listed in the description box, and this will be the case for all my readings, even the older ones. Some of the decks will have Amazon affiliate links next to them, and if you do use those links and you do purchase decks, I might qualify for a small commission. If you're wanting to buy the decks, there's some information in the description box as well, so do check that out. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for watching. If you like my videos, please consider subscribing to the channel. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and leave a comment if you feel guided to. Thank you to everyone who's already subscribed. I'm so grateful for your support. And that's it. Take care, everyone. I hope to see you all again in a future video on the other side of this cyclone. I really hope my laptop survives. Actually, I should say I really hope we survive, but also my laptop. But anyway, I'll see you hopefully in another video. Bye.